ever stop to think about, like, why we laugh?
Yeah.
Like, what even is humor?
Right, we just do it. But it's actually pretty amazing when you dig into it, which is what we're going to do today. We're going deep on humor with some really cool research to guide us.
We've got papers on, get this, the semiotics of humor, like humor as language. Plus, how kids learn to tell jokes, which is its own mystery.
Oh, and we're going to time travel a bit too, see what ancient cultures thought about laughter. Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah.
They took it very seriously.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, big time. One paper even calls humor a tool, an art form, a weapon, and a medicine, all rolled into one.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack. Like, you could build someone up with a good joke, but also totally tear them down.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff. But before we get all philosophical, let's start with, like, the basics. How do we even learn to be funny? We've got this paper on kids, like 8-year-olds, and how they use language for humor. It's wild.
Okay, so 8-year-olds, masters of comedy. What's their secret? Spill the tea.
So the paper argues that even little kids, they get that humor is a language. Like, it has rules even if they don't know them consciously. They're already using big words, techniques like hyperbole, exaggeration. Like, my teacher's so old, she remembers the dinosaurs. Classic kid humor.
Okay, yeah, that tracks. So they're just little Shakespeare's running around exaggerating for laughs.
Pretty much. And this paper, it breaks down all these little rhetorical moves they do. It's way more thought out than we realize.
Wow, I'm kind of mind blown right now. So are you saying we're like hardwired for humor from birth or something?
That's the big question, right? Researchers are still figuring that out. But what is clear is that language and humor, they're like best buds. You can't have one without the other.
It's like that saying, it's funny because it's true, but it's more like, it's funny because it messes with what we expect, you know? Like, our brains are like, wait, that's not right, but it's hilarious.
Totally. And get this, the paper suggests that humor, like, evolved alongside language. We started with basic sounds, gestures, then boom, complex wordplay, satire, the whole shebang.
So humor is basically its own form of, like, literature, with its own rules and everything.
Exactly. Think about, like, a stand-up comedian. They're using language to paint pictures, build tension, and then bam, the punchline. It's an art.
And just like art, everyone's got their own taste. What I find hilarious, someone else might be like, huh, which brings us to this whole idea of taste in humor. Speaking of huh, this next paper is a wild ride. It's all about how people used to think about humor, like way back in the day.
Oh yeah, the ancients had some strong opinions about laughter. Not all laughs were created equal, according to them.
Right, like they had different words for different kinds of laughter, which blew my mind. Makes you realize how much we just take humor for granted.
Totally. Like, we assume it's universal, but even back then they were like, hold on, some laughter is good, some is straight up shady.
So what, like a good laugh versus an evil laugh? Were they writing comic books back then, or what?
Kinda. But seriously, they had these categories. Like, the Hebrews, they use the word sakak for pure, joyful laughter. The kind you have when something amazing happens.
Okay, so like winning the lottery, sakak kind of laugh.
Exactly. But then they had eag, which is more like mocking laughter, the kind you try to stifle when someone trips, but deep down you're like,
oops, shouldn't be laughing at that, but...
Exactly. And the wild part is, this wasn't just like casual talk. This stuff was in their holy texts.
No way. So even the Bible has jokes. I gotta brush up on my scripture.
Not jokes exactly, but they use these words to show what kind of laughter is going on. Like, remember Abraham and Sarah? When God's like, you're gonna have a baby at their ripe old age.
Wait, are we talking about the Bible story? I vaguely remember that one from Sunday school.
Yeah, so Abraham, he laughs with sakak. Pure amazement, right? But Sarah, she overhears and laughs with I-A-I, basically like, yeah, right, God, good one.
And then God was not amused, right?
Pretty much. The point is, even back then, laughing at the wrong thing, especially authority, could land you in hot water.
It's like the OG cancel culture. You laugh at the wrong person, boom, you're out.
Right. And it shows how humor and power have always been linked. Who gets to laugh, who gets laughed at. It's serious stuff. And the Greeks, they were all over this too. They had Jilau, their version of happy laughter.
Okay, so Jilau, good vibes only.
Yeah.
What's the Greek word for the shady laugh?
Katajalau. Sounds intense, right?
Katajalau. It's like if laughter could throw shade, that'd be its name.
Totally. And even the big-time philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, they were wrestling with this. Like, is laughter always good?
Wait, Plato wasn't down with laughing. I thought philosophers were all about, like, questioning everything, having a laugh.
Well, Plato thought laughter often came from not knowing yourself. Like, we laugh at others' misfortunes because we think we'd never be so dumb.
So, like, it's our ego getting a giggle. Not exactly enlightened.
Exactly. He was all about moderation. And then there's Aristotle. He's like, okay, laughter's cool, but gotta have good taste.
So basically, the ancient world was worried about offensive jokes just like us. That's kind of comforting and terrifying at the same time.
Right. It shows humor is always a product of its time. Back then, it was gods and kings you had to watch out for. Now it's like the internet, cancel culture, the whole deal.
So how do we even navigate that? It's like laughter's a minefield. 1 minute you're cracking jokes, the next you're canceled.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's something each of us has to figure out. What do we find funny? And at what cost?
Deep. See, this is why I love our deep dives. We start with, like, what's so funny?
Yeah.
And end up contemplating the meaning of life.
Right. But before we get too serious, let's remember, laughter can also just be pure, simple joy. Sometimes a good chuckle is just what the doctor ordered.
That's kind of crazy, right? Like thousands of years later, we're still having the same arguments about laughter that Plato was having back in the day.
I know. It's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. But speaking of things staying the same, there's another side to humor we should talk about. Its healing power.
Oh, right. One of the papers called Humor Medicine, which at first I was like, come on, really? But now I'm kind of seeing it.
It's true. There's actually a ton of research now on the benefits of laughter. Like literally, it can make you healthier.
Wait, seriously. So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's like good for your body too.
Totally. Laughter triggers these things called endorphins, which are like natural mood boosters, but they also help with pain.
So it's like nature's pain reliever. I knew laughter was the best medicine.
Right. And it's not just that. Laughter also lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. When I'm stressed out, sometimes a good laugh is all I need to feel better.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper. Like there are studies linking laughter to better sleep, a stronger immune system, all kinds of good stuff.
Okay, wow. I am convinced I'm going to go watch stand-up comedy after this and call it preventative care.
There you go. I mean, obviously it's not a replacement for actual medicine, but yeah, more laughter in your life, definitely a good thing.
Totally. It's like adding some joy to your health regimen. And it's a good reminder that sometimes the best way to deal with life is to just laugh about it, you know?
100%. Don't take things too seriously. Find the humor. It makes a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into laughter, what's the big takeaway you want listeners to remember?
I think the biggest thing is just realizing how complex humor really is. It's not simple. It's connected to language, culture, history, our brains, even our bodies.
Like the more you learn about humor, the more you realize there's so much more to learn.
Right. It's a lifelong journey of jokes and laughter and figuring out why we find things funny.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of humor. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everybody. Until next time.